We'll start with Mr. Huelskamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cohen, I appreciate you joining us today. It must be a pretty tough job trying to answer these questions, and I'll start with perhaps a little bit of background. As I understand correctly, that you have testified at least 4 times earlier this year that the healthcare.gov website, of which shops are a part, would be up and running by October 1st, 2013. Can you explain what changed since you made that testimony, that what you didn't know, and why the shop enrollment has been delayed for an entire year?
So, I think obviously everyone knows, and it's been extremely well publicized, that when October 1st came, we ran into a number of difficulties and problems that were unanticipated. And at the time that I gave that testimony, I was providing the best information that I had based on the...
And I appreciate that, and you're giving that information. But what is confusing to me, Mr. Deputy Administrator, is that when I listened to Catholic Secretary Sebelius, she blamed it on the contractors and folks not in her direct supervision, and that somehow she was shielded from being able to make those decisions. Were you involved personally, or your office, in making those decisions? Just trying to figure out where the mess up is so we can find a way to get the shop online instead of waiting another year. Couldn't we do it a little more quickly?
And so what I would say is this. CISIO is what I would characterize as the business owner of the marketplaces, including the shop. And we have been instrumental, obviously, in providing the regulations and the guidance and setting forth the rules, essentially, for how the exchanges are to operate and the shop is to operate. I will say, and I hope you won't take this to be trying to duck the question, the people who built the website don't report to me.
Who do they report to then? That's where I'm a little confused.
So obviously we had contracts. The contracts were supervised by people in CMS and its Office of Information Services, and those people report up to the Chief Operating Officer of CMS and ultimately to the Administrator, Marilyn Tavenner, but they're outside of my organization.
How many Deputy Administrators are there?
I want to say 6 or 7.
6 or 7, and it's not in your line. So, but it goes directly up to the administrator, who then
Yes.
reports directly to the secretary.
Yes.
About that. So, when did the folks in your line find out about the shops and the fact that they weren't going to make it by the deadline?
So I know that, and I was involved in conversations as far as what the functionality of the website was going to be into September. And we were pushing very hard to get as much of the functionality to be available for October 1st, and we understood, obviously, that was the target and the deadline. And it was sometime, into September when a decision was made that it just wasn't going to be ready for October 1st, and we announced at that time that it wasn't going to be ready for October 1st, and we were hoping to get it implemented in November at that point.
So with that failure, how many small businesses do you now project will receive the tax credits for 2014?
I actually don't have an estimate of that number.
Does anybody over at CMS, or that's?
I'm not certain. I can look to see whether we've come up with that estimate, but I actually am not aware that we have at this point.
Well, as you can guess, we hear a lot of discussion in the committee of how helpful those credits will be. Trying to get a sense of how many might even qualify for that. And the purpose in this committee is to promote small businesses, and this hopefully was going to provide an opportunity for comparison shopping, more access for these small businesses. But as of now, we have really no idea, given the failure to meet the deadlines, of how many would actually be taking advantage of this.
So, yeah, so I would say it would be a difficult. Just thinking, it would be a difficult number to come up with. I don't know myself, and there may be research on this, how many employers would actually even be eligible for it. Having 25 or fewer employees, 50,000 average, a wage. And then you'd have to make some assumptions about how many of those employers even want to offer health care at all, because many don't.
And I understand that. And that was the difficulty of the administration trying to predict that. obviously, everything's changed with the failure to meet the deadlines, and just trying to get a sense, all those numbers should have changed as well.
And we've tried to, as I said, we've tried to, recognizing that we were not able to provide the online experience, we've tried to do everything that we can to make sure that employers will have access to those tax credits. And the good thing about it is, you know, if there's the silver lining, is that unlike on the individual side where it's an advance payment of a tax credit, for employers, it's a tax credit that they claim with their tax return at the end of their tax year.
But if you're in a state with no state exchange, you're left with submitting a paper application to receive these credits?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Ranking Member Velasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.